Good afternoon. And welcome to everyone who's joining us on the internet. Well, is the course becoming more interesting or more troublesome? In the recent weeks, you've all been put more and more on the spot in terms of involvement with the ideas, the implementing of the ideas rather than the contemplation of the ideas in the course, which has brought you to the threshold of having to make changes. That's what makes it troublesome. It's also what makes it interesting. Because the moment you are willing to make changes or abandon old habits, things that had been available to you before, but which you did not recognize because of the habits you were employing, will begin to register with you. I mean, they will begin to register with you as opportunities. I'm speaking of it in a very positive sense. It's not that you will all of a sudden see how horrible everything is. One of the key things that we've been discussing recently is the importance of your attention. You might think that it's necessary for you to begin to pay attention to what you're giving your attention to. But we have to back up a little bit from that. And the question has to be, how are you using your attention? Not what is your attention being placed on, but how are you using your attention? Why do you give your attention here and not there? Then we have to back up even further to a more primary place. The question is, are you using your attention all by yourself? Or are you using your attention in partnership with the Father? Are you using your attention as an independent entity? Or in the process of giving your attention to whatever there is to give your attention to, are you conscious of doing it in tandem with your guide, me, or the Father? In which there's no sense of doing it alone, in which, at the least, there is the constant awareness that there is someone standing with you whose perspective is not governed by all the definitions you've given to everything, all the agreements you've made with everyone else, and whose perspective always has as its focus the recognition of and the glorification of God in whatever you're giving your attention to. So, if you're going through your day, and obviously you are going to be giving your attention to something because that is the state of being conscious. If you are going through your day without ever having a sense of being companioned with, then you can count on it. You are going through your day in your typical ego mindset of being a separated, independent, autonomous, self-regulating entity. That's called the human condition. That's called the ego frame of reference. It's you unconscious of reality in the middle of a dream that you've dreamed up. And that is exactly what everyone will wake up out of. So don't value it. It's really important to understand that it's this state of autonomy which constitutes your incapacity to recognize God. It therefore is what constitutes your prison. It's what keeps you in a state of ignorance, ignorant of the truth that would set you free, ignorant of a conscious experience of being that it's your birthright to be having forever. So it isn't what are you giving your attention to, it's how are you using your attention, and even before that, are you giving your attention to everything in tandem with, in cooperation with, in brotherhood with one who is awake? Your guide, the Holy Spirit, me, the Father. I promise you that if during the past 2 weeks when I said you would have occasion to teach peace in order to learn it, that those occasions arose because you chose not to be joined with one who was awake while observing your world. You chose to look at it privately. When you look privately, all of God, that is the only thing there is for you to see, does not look like God. It looks like the fear through which you're looking at everything. A fear that you cannot avoid when you are pretending to be independent and on your own. And you know what? You will see justification for your fear. And you will frighten yourself. And you will make yourself ill. Why? Because you're looking alone through the lens of fear, sending out messengers of fear that will return to you proclaiming the abundance of things to be frightened about. And if you're not careful, you will become preoccupied with the bad news. And in a greater state of fear, you will give even more attention to what you're looking at, with even more fear, until, if it's not squelched, you become obsessed with the awfulness of human will. Then, in the horror of that awful experience that you're having, you will find yourself faced with only one thing to do, which by now has become the hardest thing to do, and that is to find your peace. Of course, now you're severely upset, and maybe your body is even giving you strong signals of pain or illness. And you say, how am I supposed to find my peace in the middle of this? But you find that you have to find a way, because it hurts too much not to. And so now, finally, you do what you should have done in the beginning. You choose to withdraw your attention from the awfulness of human will and come back within. You soak in a hot tub or you meditate. You find some way to become still within yourself and turn to the altar. Turn to the voice for truth. Turn to the Holy Spirit, which is nothing more than your right mind. And it's hard. But if you do it with singleness of purpose, it can happen almost instantaneously. The more undivided your intent, the more rapidly the awfulness of human will fade from your frayed nerve endings, if you will, and you will find peace returning. You will find inner stability returning. And you will find a capacity to look at your world not alone this time, and find that there's another way to look at it. Now, it might mean that you will still see a call for correction in your world. The evidence of the awfulness of human will still be there, calling for you to become clear about the truth of what has to be there underneath the awfulness of human will that's being expressed, the Christ that is there underneath the behavior that looks un-Christ-like, the intent of which is un-Christ-like. And so the call for correction will still be there, but you will be free to deal with it with peace, so that your response teaches peace and you learn it. You know, all of this, all this, the teaching in the Course, the movement along what you might call your spiritual path, all of it has to do with real fundamental change. Where? In you. So that you begin teaching something new and being an agent for change in the world. But you know what? The, quote, being an agent for change in the world, unquote, is something that happens spontaneously. It's not something you do. You attend to what? Where you're giving your attention. Why you're giving it there. And whether you're giving it all by yourself or in community with God, the Holy Spirit, me, or your guide. Not alone, in other words. And what may not be sinking in yet is that this makes all the difference in the world to your experience of the world and of who you are. It really makes a difference. It really is transformational. And it really is essential. Don't wait until you're in excruciating pain before you're willing to acknowledge that it's essential. You can bring the same amount of devotion and commitment to what is essential when nothing excruciating is happening. But the tendency is to play with your spirituality. Oh, life is so sweet. Oh, God is so wonderful. Oh, I know, underneath, around, above, the everlasting arms of love are holding me. Oh, yeah. But what is this me that the underlying arms of love is holding? Is it someone who is sweetly being independent and having all these spiritual thoughts? Oh, I don't need to worry about just having fantasies of spirituality because I know God is holding me. Well, hell, God's been holding you since the moment of creation. And it hasn't done you a bit of good if you haven't been willing to say, oh, hi, Father. Not only do I know that you're holding me, but I'm choosing to actually be aware of you as you're holding me here in your arms. I'm willing to actually acknowledge you and the fact that I have a relationship with you. I am consciously being with you. Like a nursing child, I look into your eyes and I connect with you. I acknowledge being with you. And because I am, I can see and feel the fact that you are connected with me. And I choose to stay in this consciousness of being while I participate in everything that you are unfolding, all of creation. You see what I'm saying? It takes practice. It takes persistence. You have an age-old habit of looking at everything all by yourself. It's second nature to you. Second nature? What's first nature? Second nature is a substitute. Your rule needs to be no substitutes allowed. No substitutions, please. I want the original, real experience. Well, you're not going to have the original experience until you choose well. As to how you're going to use your attention. And you know what? The wonderful thing is that nobody can see where you're giving your attention. Nobody can tell you're doing anything different than you did before. It's not something that sticks out like a sore thumb. So you can't claim that people will think you're weird if you give your attention here or there. If you give your attention to the Holy Spirit first and then look with the Holy Spirit at what's happening in your experience so that you may be in that experience out from the clarity that comes from the joining. You can't say, I don't have time. Because you can do this in every moment, in every situation. Every encounter with your brother or sister is an occasion for not doing it as a private, independent entity. Okay. I'm losing your attention. Because I'm repeating myself and you would like something new and stimulating. And you need to pay attention to how you're using your attention right now. Don't worry. I'm used to people tuning me out. And it's all right, because I know before long I'll have your attention again. And every time I have your attention, it offers another opportunity for helping secure you in the place where you feel the blessing of existing more consistently. I also know that there really isn't any other way you can do it at the moment. And so I'm not frustrated because I'm not expecting you to do what you can't do. And I want you to give yourselves the same loving consideration. Okay, we'll go to the book. We ended up with the sentence, which is the Holy Spirit's second lesson. To have peace, teach peace, to learn it. This is still a preliminary step, since having and being are still not equated. It is, however, more advanced than the first step, which is really only a thought reversal. The second step is a positive affirmation of what you want. There's a little more involvement, in other words, on your part. This, then, is a step in the direction out of conflict, since it means that alternatives have been considered and one has been chosen as more desirable. Again, a little more involvement on your part. A little bit more conscious intent on your part, a little more focus of your attention, and therefore a little more clarity. Continuing, nevertheless, the evaluation, quote, more desirable, unquote, still implies that the desirable has degrees. Therefore, although this step is essential for the ultimate decision, it is clearly not the final one. It is clear at this point that the lack of order of difficulty in miracles has not yet been accepted, because nothing is difficult that is wholly desired. Again, something that is wholly desired is a desire that has nothing extraneous to it. It is purely itself, and is therefore what I've referred to as a singularity. Continuing, to desire wholly is to create, and creating cannot be difficult if God Himself created you as a creator. The second step, then, is still perceptual, although it is a giant step toward the unified perception which parallels God's knowing. As you take this step, which step? To have peace, teach peace, to learn it. So as you take this step and hold this direction, you will be pushing toward the center of your thought system, where the fundamental change will occur. You are only beginning this step now, but you have started on this way by realizing that only one way is possible. You do not yet realize this consistently, and so your progress is intermittent. But the second step is easier than the first because it follows. The very fact that you have accepted that is a demonstration of your growing awareness that the Holy Spirit will lead you on. In other words, not only are you not alone, but the one that is with you has an intent to lead you home, to not leave you abandoned, to not leave you with the feeling of nothing or no one significant being involved with you. It is the Holy Spirit's intent for you to experience being consciously loved for no good reason, without justification, just because. Section 3. Be vigilant only for God and His kingdom. Ooh, here we go again. More work. Less unconsciousness. Less drowsy, comfy sleep. Be vigilant only for God and His kingdom. For your own salvation, you must be critical. Since your salvation is critical to the whole sonship, wow, you make a difference. You thought this was all just about puny little you waking up. But puny little you waking up is the Christ that you are coming back into his or her full conscious capacity to reflect and glorify God. And that constitutes a decrease in what we could call the unconsciousness of the brotherhood of man, the sons and daughters of God as a whole.